Well, Jack, just at $23 an hour, there's 2,080 hours that's 40 hours a week, okay,
Yeah.
a year. That's $48,000 a year this lady made. Who makes that in San Antonio? The average person doesn't. She was paid well, so for her to say she was abused,
Maybe
I
out
don't
there
believe
that
it.
money doesn't go so far.
That's
though.
true. It is
Well,
California. Yeah.
guys, in California, entry-level house, especially if you let's do a Google on where Meg Whitman lives, and let's find out what the average wage is. I mean, out there, you're paying $500,000 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 50-year-old house. So we got to keep everything in perspective. So $23 an hour, it does sound, and it is a lot here in this market. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it compares to over there. I think the bottom line is not whether or not the allegation of whether she was abused or not so much as it is, did Meg Whitman knowingly break the law, yes or no? That's the question of judgment that needs to be brought in. She's running for office. I think you can subjectively say my boss didn't treat me well enough, and maybe this lady's looking for a payoff. That's we've heard of these kind of things all the time. The issue is, did she or did she not know she had someone who was not in the country legally working for her? End of story.
The other thing that I think it points up is we've had so many high-profile people, presidential appointees. Remember, Bill Clinton went through 3 people to get an attorney general because of nanny issues or housekeeper issues. We've had other people run for office and get into this mess. What is the actual standard that we expect? Do we expect that if a person has been an employer, they have never employed an illegal immigrant, or is it that we expect that they have taken reasonable steps, but that could still be circumvented because we hear the stories all the time? I mean, how much should people be expecting, Jimmy, if they're rating her as a potential chief executive of California? How much should this count?
Well, I just, again, I'm going to go back to the fact that I don't think it should count at all. I don't see it. I mean, I'm really kind of a Jerry Brown guy, but I look at this issue and I think this is ridiculous. And the reason I do is because people at that level get so much mail. I mean, once you get rich, you get constant mail that comes in trying to solicit contributions and help for various entities, people that want to do business with you. It's ludicrous to think that she opens all that mail. So we look at the circumstances, and I agree with Jose, but let's take the circumstances. Whether she knew or not, to me, would depend upon is she truly taking advantage of somebody. Mm-hmm. If you're bringing somebody here who's illegal, you have the opportunity to take advantage of them because they can't snitch you off. They can't do anything to you, so you can pay them well below minimum wage.
You're making me think of the Sausalito case recently, where they were not only employing the illegal immigrants, but they had brought them over expressly for that purpose. That's the allegation. So that's a far cry from somebody who seems to have taken reasonable steps and just didn't know. Right?
Well, I would think that the only reason you would employ somebody who is illegal versus somebody who is legal is perhaps a compassionate reason, but more than likely it's because you want to pay them a lot less. You're going to get a bargain. You're going to make more money off of them. You're going to get more work for less money. If you're not getting more work for less money, to me, I'd have to think more than likely you presumed or believed that they were legal.
All right. So let me ask you, Michael and Jose, really quickly, what should the standard be for a person seeking to be a chief executive of a major state, one of the largest economies in the world? Do we want them to be 100% perfect on this, or should voters look at whether or not they took reasonable precautions to stay within the law? Michael, what would you say?
Reasonable precaution. That's a safe bet. It's
all right.
It's
so
impossible.
something could be forgivable if
That's
it looked
correct.
like you tried. Jose, what about that?
I tend to agree. My knee jerk is that it should be reasonable, but the thing also that people who are either running for elected office or elected office need to realize that they are held to a higher standard in the sense that we represent everyone who lives in our district, and people in our district, many of them expect and hope for that you're at least you have at least a level of integrity and morality that they do. And therefore, you've got varying degrees. And so I like to think a lot of the senior citizens who put their trust and say, you know what, we believe in what you're going to do. And maybe it's because I started when I was 27, and I took that really seriously. And I mean, it weighed a great deal on my shoulders. All these seniors who would help me and block walk with me, I felt like I was not sort of like letting down my mom and dad, like I have a lot of other mom and dads out there. And so I try to go as far as I can to protect even the appearance.
All right, we're back with more Gang of Four on a Friday morning. Michael Shackelford, Jose Menendez, Jimmy Parks. You can vote in the JR poll at 599-5555. President Obama at the White House making the long-expected announcement today that Rahm Emanuel will be leaving as chief of staff. He's expected to run for mayor of Chicago, and that the president will replace him at least on an interim basis. More on that coming up from the newsroom on 550 KTSA. KTSA News Time is 10:27. It's Gang of Four for a Friday morning. Jimmy Parks, Jose Menendez, Michael Shackelford, and wait till you see the video cast. They're all very youthful looking. I need to say that about all of them. There's a lot of hurt feelings here this morning. Very young looking, all of them. All right, as we speak, Rahm Emanuel is being lauded by President Obama as a great guy and a great public servant. But look, the real reputation Rahm has is that he's ruthless. Is that nobody will go to the mat for President Obama like Rahm Emanuel. Do you think he's going to miss this guy?
My thoughts are, just from what you read about him and hear about him, he's just too divisive. He's really the antithesis. He's diametrically.
But he works for a president who's divisive. I mean, it's part of the way this administration does business. Don't they need a guy like that?
Well, Jack, it's to finish the sentence, though. He's the antithesis of what Barack Obama said he would be.
Right.
Not what he's become, but what he promised he would be.
Right.
He was going to reach out to both sides of the aisle. He's going to be inclusive, and it starts with Rahm Emanuel. It seems like it's almost impossible for individuals on Capitol Hill to ever try to include this guy in any kind of inclusiveness.
Don't all presidents though need somebody? And don't they always usually have somebody who is kind of the axe man, Jose? I mean,
sure,
even if you want to be the benevolent guy fronting the administration, you have a guy that does your dirty work.
You have to have someone who's the hammer, the tough guy that delivers the bad news, but that person needs to realize who's the boss. And my problem with Rahm Emanuel is that it seems to me like Rahm was never shy to think maybe he knew better.
Yeah.
And I think that Rahm injected his policy views a little too strongly. I think he should have taken direction from the president and gone to do what he did. I think Jimmy was right on target. Both Rahm and Nancy Pelosi are so polarizing that they've never given Rahm never gave those moderate Democrats that he went to recruit a chance to represent their districts.
Yeah.
And so how do you first they should have proven to America that here is the president that's going to bring the country together, and let's work on a few wins in that regard so that these guys would have something to take back without having to polarize the country and then get everybody mad and say, see, I told you so.
Michael, there are these stories of Rahm Emanuel, confronting congressmen in the locker room and screaming at people and sending dead fish in the mail, and which I guess the only kind of fish you can send in the mail is dead fish. But anyway, I mean, is this the kind of politics that, if the polls are right, means in about a month a lot of Democratic incumbents are going to be on the beach? I mean, it sounds like they were put in the position of having to vote for things and being associated with things that is so unpopular, they're going down. They're losing their seats.
Yeah, and I think it's perfect timing for the Democrats to have Rahm Emanuel step down now to run for the Chicago mayor seat. But I do agree that this Rahm Emanuel's hurt the Democrat Party, and I'm happy that he's stepping down, and I'm excited for the Republican Party